Hello, everybody. It's been a little while since I've done a video, so I'm trying to make sure I get one posted today. This week I wanted to talk about annual reports. Uh, Annual reports, when you form an LLC or register an entity with your state, um, typically, not all states have the same name, but typically it's with your state Secretary of State. Uh, some states call it different things, but that's really what it is. So you file your business registration with them, and then the states have a automatic built-in feature that if the entity goes inactive, they will administratively dissolve it in order to free up that name for somebody else to use. So one of the reasons why we formally register our business is to basically not trademark, but basically similar to a trademark. We reserve that name so that nobody else can do it within the state that we register the entity. Um, well, if you don't follow up with the state each year, then they will administratively dissolve your entity in order to free up that name because they assume that entity is inactive. And so lots of LLCs are registered every year in every state. A lot of times people will create an LLC and then do nothing with it, and so the state will end it. Most states, filing what's called an annual report is all you have to do to verify that you are still actively running your LLC. And the annual report will prevent you from having it administratively dissolved. Now, most of the states, they actually call it an annual report. You file it with the Secretary of State or the same entity that you registered your LLC with. Um, and most of the time, the annual report is very simple. Takes less than, honestly, it probably takes less than 15 minutes to do. Most people can do it themselves. Most of the time, you're just verifying that you haven't moved, the ownership structure hasn't changed, and basically it's the same information as last year. If something has changed, then you click edit and you update the information, you hit submit. Some states have a minimal filing fee with that. Some states don't even have a filing fee at all. It just depends on what state you're in, but typically that's the entire process. Now, some states, like Texas, has tied the annual report to some sort of tax filing. In other states, they're two separate things. So Texas, you file an informational report with your franchise tax report. And so in Texas, it's very, very common to have your tax provider also file your annual report for you merely because it's tied to a franchise tax return. In other states, annual reports can be considered practicing law, and so it becomes a very gray area for a CPA or a tax provider to file an annual report for you, uh, unless they are also a licensed attorney. However, it is a gray area, so you'll need to talk to your tax provider if it's a service that they do offer, or if they recommend you do it yourself or go to an attorney or registered agent for those services. Um, but like I said, most of the time it's pretty easy, and typically states will send you an email to or a letter reminding you that you need to file your annual report. When you get that email or letter, there's typically instructions on how to do it, and be able to report your or file your annual report. However, if you know it needs to be filed and it's been a while, you can always go to the public database. So every state has a public database to look up an LLC. I'll go ahead and share screen. We're just going to pick, uh, got Google here. Let's just pick, we'll do Texas just because it's easy. So business entity search, it pops right up. It's something I look for all the time. So Texas, like I said, they do things different. Normally it's through the Secretary of State, but because they've tied it to the franchise tax, then it's actually ran through the franchise tax report. So actually, we're not going to do Texas. Let's go ahead and do something like Idaho. Um, where I'm at. So Idaho is ran through the Secretary of State. Their annual report is separate from the tax filing. So we're going to click on that. And I'm not logged in. I don't have an account, as you can see up here. And so we're just going to search for any business. Texas Roadhouse popped up on my Google search. So let's just go ahead and look them up. And here we go. So we have a whole bunch of different Texas roadhouses in Idaho. These active with an agent. So the United Agent Group would be the one that's actually filing their annual report. You can come in here and you can view history. You can see the information about it. Idaho, you can very easily link yourself to your business, and then once you log in, one of your options is to file your annual report right here. But that's literally how easy it is to find an LLC, and most states give you the option to file the annual report after you log in, or you just click a couple buttons and verify that you have the ownership, or you have that letter, and typically there's a code on that letter that allows you to file the annual report. But we could also go look at, I don't know, Iowa business search. And so like this is a state I don't have. I probably have one client in this state if that's the case. So I don't come look at Iowa very often, but again, it's just a public information, and you can look up any business, and if you can prove that you are the owner of this business, you'll have the option to file your annual report, typically within this website. Another way you can do it is if you know you haven't filed an annual report in a while, we can just let's go to Washington, how to file an annual report. And so here we have the Secretary of State.gov for Washington annual reports. You click on this and it will take you to the proper procedures and give you the instructions on how to file your annual report. It gives you the deadlines and everything. So in order to keep your entity active and operating, you have to have filed your annual report. And you can very quickly find out if your entity is active just by doing the business entity search. So let's do business entity search in Washington State. Um, and we'll do Texas Roadhouse again. Foreign profit corporation, filing status active. And that's how you know. So whoever their registered agent is filing their annual report and keeping them active and in good standing with Washington. So it typically says it right on the search. You can just go into your state, search the business public listings, find your entity, see if it's active or inactive. If it's inactive, it will typically say why. Usually it's something like administratively dissolved, which usually means you haven't filed your annual report in a couple of years. Then you can follow up with how to file the annual report, and you can have your LLC back in compliance pretty quickly. Uh, Other than some processing time. So I get the question all the time, will you file an annual report for us? We can, but we do it as an out-of-scope service because it can be considered practicing law, same as registering an LLC itself. I'll do basic LLC registrations. I highly recommend you go through an attorney because they will draw up actual operating agreements or partnership agreements that actually solidify and give a little bit more authority to the LLC filing itself. But a basic LLC filing is not complicated. All right. I hope this has been informative and helps people understand how to file your annual report and keep your LLC in active and good standing with your state. Comment if you have any questions or comments, concerns. And thank you. See you next time.